Where does Vaush stop and Vowsh begin? His brand works off of being boisterous, controversial, and combative. His channel was born out of arguing with far right weirdos, advocating for leftist causes and talking points in a time where there was nobody fulfilling the niche he fills. And I want to clarify that I think it is a good niche. It is effective and allows you to be someone ready to put up a good fight live for a good cause in the debate field. But Bosch himself is messy, and I don't think he ever plans on cleaning up after himself. Because he has tied himself so much to his brand of power and unwavering conviction in his advocacy, he fails to realize where his logical principles are being overshadowed by arrogance. And of course, what I'm referring to is the recent issue of his ironic misogyny towards J.K. Rowling. Now, was it intended to be a joke? I believe so. But I'm not going to evaluate whether or not that's the case because it's irrelevant to the issue at hand. What it has led to is an instance of a prominent online left-wing figure making themselves in the movement in some capacity look hypocritical and obnoxious. And the reason why this is important and why I want to make this point towards Vaush specifically is that I believe he believes the outcomes are what matters. But if that was the case, he isn't following through. We can take the argument that JK never would have responded to Vaush's tweet if he didn't do the meme. Okay, I think that's true. That's fair. And that this instance gave Vaush the option to directly respond to JK was something she may actually see, and the audience who doesn't know him may actually see as well. Is this good? Well, there are certainly positive connotations, but the issue is that the framing is incredibly important, and if you are in Vaush's community, you may see this as a win.
Oh, he got her with that one. Now transphobes will hear the argument that JK oppresses people with her identity.
And I mean, there may be a very small proportion of people who do so, but that is absolutely not what the majority of new people will see. All they will witness is a snarky online suit saying some bad shit and making another snarky comment when called out on it. They won't see this as a point of trans rights. They will see it as a leftist figure being an arrogant douche. Which leads me to my next reference point and idea to ramble about, iDubbbz. I quite like iDubbbz. I think he's an intelligent guy and that he uses logical principles to move around the world and assess things. And I can recognize this intelligence because he shifted out of his edgelord phase when he, presumably, realized the kinds of audiences he was attracting. I saw firsthand friends and even myself justifying the usage of shocking language with the adage that the shock in itself is the humor, which of course is boring and stupid now. But I was young at that point. The difference between the Dubs and Vaush is that iDubbbz realizes the connotations and has stopped. When I look back at some of his content, it's tainted by its crudeness and arrogant attitude. It meant that people wrote him off as a white supremacist because he played into that audience, even if the arguments he made and the content he made had some validity to them. You can see where I'm going with this. Vaush, trying to advocate for women's rights and then doubling down on your "my ironic misogyny was good actually" only makes you look worse to both outsiders and the people you actually want to get on your side, regardless of if the principle in of itself is defensible. Unless you want to generate an audience of edgelords, this is pointless. The average person isn't picking apart the particular individual principles. They're trying to look at things on a surface level, and these are people who you should be trying to talk to instead of a terminally online one. And that's where I want to lead into my main point, that Vaush doesn't actually care about pragmatism as much as he would like. I could be wrong in this, but Vaush gives me the impression of someone that wants to push towards a direction and make content that supports it, and I do think he's got a lot of great content and discussions, but his bad habits prevent a huge potential portion of people from consuming it and understanding it. Where does Vaush, the dark side of Vaush, begin and end? There are arguments made against Vaush that aren't good, such as the non-compete arc/controversy. But that is just one instance of a waterfall of reckless behavior. And if Vaush wants to make the argument that a Joe Rogan type should be careful because of their platform, he's being a hypocrite by acting as if it doesn't affect him as well. Vaush, you want to leave as much of a positive impact on not just the online left, but the world as a whole, correct? then get your head out of your terminally online ass and recognize that you sound like a fucking asshole to anyone who isn't in the debate sphere. And I can already hear, oh my god, these fucking people constantly optics frogging me. If it's so bad, then why don't you go watch another streamer? You clearly aren't my audience if you can't handle it. Is that so, Vaush? What kind of audience do you want to generate? I assume one you believe can make jokes at any group's expense as long as it's in good fun, right? Then recognize that you need to realize where the line is. Women aren't as comfortable in your space as you would like to believe. Before this ends, I'd like to leave on one last point. I'm sure there are plenty of trans women who enjoy Vaush, and I get it. He aggressively defends trans rights, and it's a figure that trans people can point to and say, he makes fantastic arguments for us. And that's a beautiful thing. But, Vaush, you are tarnishing this image and utility you provide by being perceived as a cunt first and a good cunt second. The Vowshisms hold Vaush back, and it just makes him look fucking stupid. I'm sorry if that's too harsh. And if you ever see this, Mr. Laddie, it would be fun to debate and discuss this topic. I do like you and think you have a good impact. But please learn to take an L for once.